Today I'm presenting a case study that talks about capsular distortion and its effect to locomotion, and obviously the health of the entire hoof and the horse, obviously. This is a 22-year-old cushion horse. It's a pleasure horse. It's not, and obviously, a competition horse. Had a single owner forever, so that's a great person to work for. And when the horse came to me, it was interfering terribly in the front. The feet were very distorted. So, and now you can see, and sorry for my lack of taking great videos. The after, I don't know why, my iPhone didn't focus as well. So, but that's why you always say rats. You know, when you do research, something goes wrong until you notice it too late. But you will see the horse is actually not interfering anymore. And you will see when I present the state of the capsule, you will see why it's not doing that. So this is the horse upon arrival, and then now it's the morph, and you can see how the horse has changed. So this horse had a laminitic episode before the horse came here. So that ends, you're going to see some damage that came already before I had to work on the horse, okay? So this is the horse now, and we're improving. So anyway, so the right front foot was very twisted out, and after one trimming, you can see how the hoof is already on the same day can change through your trimming. But you're not going to solve the problem just in one day, because you have so much capsular distortion. It's in the wall, it's on the sole. It's not very good. So the foot on the left, didn't have enough support to the lateral side, was sheared to the medial side. The right front foot was sheared from the medial heel to the lateral toe quarter, so it's not exactly very nice. So this is upon arrival, have a very excessive high heel. The heel to bulb distance is not very good, so the foot is not exactly balanced correctly. Regardless of what you put on the horse, you do not want to have a long distance from the heel to the bulb. You really want the heel to support the bulb. So same thing on the other foot, not very good. So we're looking at the heel to frog junction. So this is the left front. And this was exceedingly high on the medial side. So you can see it's much longer from that junction here. You have a very long heel versus here it's a lower heel. So we had to just remove, I removed the medial heel a little bit more carefully. So this is upon arrival, and you can see again how the foot are twisted, okay? So the point I palpate is what people used to call the dimples, which is the articular area between the third and second phalange, but also I'll palpate the point at the distal end of the first phalange. I will explain why I do that. So I have a 3D model hoof to kind of explain in 3D how a certain capsule has sheared, because I project the articular points right onto the sole, and then I kind of look at the relationship of the bone and the articulation to the sole plane. So that will give you a general idea, because anything can happen to a hoof, or whether you trim badly, or there's locomotion issue, or other problems occurring with the horse, or poor shoe placement. So the point palpated, we didn't do that to the horse we worked on, and this is actually a live horse, but those thumbtack are glued on. There's nothing that can go into the horse. So don't worry, we didn't stick the horse. And you can see where the dimples are, and this is the points where at the distal end of the first phalange, and you can see how it projects itself at the bottom. So now the question is, are the palpated point, if you only use the pillar, actually reliable? I don't think it is. This is why I use two sets of points, because that's when we palpated the original point, trying to find them around the coronary band. It's a contracted capsule, so it's going to shear and change as the foot grows. So this is much more tight than right here. And also it got, the first point was sheared because the foot was twisted. So you're not going to, I think they're not reliable. I would not advise to continue putting points right in the front. And I'll explain about the breakover because I think people get a little bit lost, you know. So I think the capsule itself is not always reliable to read a hoof, you know. I mean, certain things are, like heels being too high, or other thing, or distortion like frog being too stretched or too narrow. But beyond that, you have to be a little bit careful. So this is the same hoof before on arrival. And you will notice, because again, if you were to palpate those 2 points, this is actually where quote, the perceived articulation is. And it's not where it should be, because the capsule has been sheared from the medial heel to the lateral toe quarter, and then you fit the shoe to the white line, and then that's what you have. Of course, some people mechanically would add the trailer on the outside or wider branch to fix it locomotionally, but it still doesn't take into consideration you're working with a very distorted capsule. And it's not a question of having too much heel or the medial lateral balance. This is very distorted. So people make too much assumption on how to solve problem. You have it step by step, and you have to be a little bit careful. Interestingly, it's a little bit later, you can see the new growth, and this is the old hoof. The whole hoof, you know, again, it's still not giving you a right read. Even so, at that stage, the pillar here and here are actually matching the upper points. So this is this, okay? So this is where your pillars would be. Most people go from here to here onto the hoof capsule, and this is the distal end of the first phalange. And you can see where they are. But this, when you take the capsule with it, it does not always match 1 to 1, and especially if you have wall distortion. So it's always better to use 2 sets of points when you know you have really huge amount of distortion. Next thing is what you have to be really careful. You see, the bone is where the bone is, but the capsule can actually, this is extreme, I'm exaggerating, and it's probably not, it will not go through that, but it will kind of dislocate itself, you know, away from actually where the bone is. As it relates to the capsule can distort any which way. All right, it's not an absolute. So doing this and doing projection at the bottom is far more safer, and using those 2 points is far more safer to see how you would orient a capsule with your trimming around the bone. Because essentially, basically, the bone should be kind of match a bit the hoof capsule. They should be kind of about the same shape and same orientation. I hope that makes sense. So this is an example when I started. This was a Grand Prix dressage horse, and you can see when I palpate those points that you can't find them because the capsule has distortion. This is actually pushing all the walls, you know, onto the coronary band. I will have a little talk on how to palpate the coronary band and what you're looking at. So don't take it for granted, because a lot of people then go there and think that's where the breakover is, but it's probably more in that direction than where it's at here, because you're looking at the entire limb and not the capsule that can change. So again, your job is to bring the hoof capsule around the bones in 3 dimensions. With also, again, the hoof capsule is not symmetric. And this is not the same hoof, but you get the idea. When you have a lot of distortion in the wall, it's very important, because those peak impact in the wall are actually affecting the well-being of the soft tissue. It's not a question of, you know, whether you have a formula for trimming or not. There's mechanical property of the horn that is innate to the horse, okay? So again, landmark, first one, that's what people would call pillar, and the second one. So the idea again is to align the capsule to the limb, all right? That's kind of a little bit logical. So you do not want things that go this way or this way. I'm exaggerating. You want to keep that kind of, when you trim, aligned to that, okay? So the same hoof when we started. Okay, now we're going back to our case study, and it's quite twisted. And a lot of people say, well, that's the way the horse wants to break over. No, I say it's not so. It's Yeah, it might be so if I do a projection and it's already perfectly well aligned, I would say, well, that's the way the horse wants to do. But when you project it and you have something that goes this way, I don't know if you can see it, that's not a good thing, okay? So there's always exception to the rules, but that, in that case, that made it worse for the horse, okay? And the owner knew it because the horse had been with her for 22 years practically, so this horse never had a foot that was interfering like that. So it's not the cushion that is creating it either. So again, this is getting more aligned. You have the old growth, and as this is growing out, it's going to help the foot also staying in a better stance as far as, you know, locomotion. All right, again, when we started, so this is after the first showing, and again, we gave the support when we needed. So it got a little more support on the medial side on the right, and a little more support on the lateral side, and both sides a little bit, because I'm trying to support the coronary band. And it will change as the foot expands. So when horses interfere like that, it's not good. And if you have also a medial lateral imbalance, you start having shoving around the capsule right here. And then we have a lot of interference from the locomotion. The horse was actually bruised. This is actually the bruise coming out. The bulge you have here is right here. It's coming down. That's the old shaved area here that is coming down actually. So it's not finished. It's going to take a while, but the horse is happier. So this is the horse now. Not a perfect foot. I mean, it's 22 years old, but it's definitely a little bit happier. So that was before and after. Look at the palmar angle, the current palmar angle. And then what's interesting, you can see this is the first phalange is coming a little bit out of socket from being so upright. So it's slowly moving back, which is really important. And the horse is loading more at the heel, not at the tip of the toe. Unfortunately, because there was a laminitic episode because of the cushion, the horse is on the medication for that. The pedal bone has changed its concavity. This is a Palmar curve. I've written published a scientific paper about that. Probably forget to reference it, but it's on my website. You can see it's basically much more demineralized than you would want to for a horse this age. And now I have statistics that are much more than just a few. I mean, 260 horses. I have 5,000. But so you can see that this horse, even it's very upright, it basically has damage at the solar aspect of the pedal bone. So this is this same horse, and you can tell actually how the foot is loading. This is the the high foot, but it's a highly demineralized high foot, and the question is, the more upright the foot, there probably will be more damage at the pedal bone, you know. So it's kind of happened quite a bit. This is a quote lower foot, and actually I'm getting a better palmar angle now than I did before. So, you know, it's quite interesting. So it's the morph. So again, it's the same bone. This bone is also demineralized, you know. So you can tell it's not as bad as the other because this is actually the low foot versus the high foot. So the right front didn't get as much damage because it's a lower foot. All right. So this is the state of the foot right now. I mean, this month. It could always change because it's a cushion horse. But so this was before. So you can see this is coming back to the middle of the phalange, but this gets pushed forwards when you're too upright, and then you have a little bucking. This probably will never come down completely because of the age of the horse and the fact it was probably left upright for a very long time. So there's so much you can do to a 22-year-old horse, okay? But this one you can actually tell it's much nicer. You have more support here. And this is not this is not riding over the second phalange like that. So it's coming back a little bit. So again, same right front foot because that's the one that was the most twisted. You can see how this can change. And as this stuff start growing out, also it's decompressing the entire capsule, so eventually you will have a better and better foot. This needs to grow out completely. It's going to take another probably 3 or 4 shoeing to come out completely, okay? So, of course, when you have distortion in the wall, you have high heels, you have very, very contracted white line, you have contracted heel, and you do not have a sulcus that is functioning. In this case, you have most of the, you don't have most of the foot is in front of the frog, which is not good. This is still not looking fantastic because, again, the distortion have to come out. It's not just the bottom, it's the entire wall. So the wall being distorted will affect also the sole and the concavity of the sole, meaning the arch of the sole. So you can see, so eventually it's going to get better. This was actually right here. So this is growing out. That's where actually the pedal bone was pushing onto. And this is where my point being projected onto the sole were at that time. And I didn't do it the other one because I was already pretty happy with it. So there you go. So same thing here, you know, projecting that. And this is a right front foot, and this is actually a little too tight to this side. It should have a little more room. It's longer here, which it should be because it's a right front foot, but you would want to have a little bit more distance here. So this is where the breakover here is naturally, as far as the articulation of the joints goes, not the capsule you look at. I hope I'm making sense. Still distortion in the capsule, so this is the old growth. This is affecting this growth. Eventually, and I didn't buff it because I wanted to see that, so, you know, because I'm not trying to make it pretty for Facebook, which I never do, making it pretty. But you can tell actually you start having much more nicer tubules, and as the old growth is affect this growth, and it affect this, will kind of decompress completely. You cannot remove the whole capsule to get what you need. You have to wait. So same hoof, you know, with the support, not the support. Again, it's a 22-year-old cushion horse, you know, so it's never going to be a perfectly beautiful foot, but it's not too bad for the age and what happened to it. So I'm going to show you also what I look in an X-ray. I did a lot of dissection of sagittal cut of cadaver leg to see actually when I use imaging processing, see if we can see the dermis in an appropriate way. So that I did some personal little research. But this is your dermis. This is the thickness of the white pigmentation. This is what we would see on the coronary band, and this is your white line, and this is again your corium. Corium or dermis, I like to say dermis, but you could say corium because that's more the veterinary nomenclature. Anyway, so, and that's what it radiograph into, so you can really see it if you can play with your imaging to get what you need to see, but you can actually really see it. So we're going to see that on the non-cadaver leg. See actually where your corium is. It's much tighter. There's not very great sole depths. I always measure the sole depths below the corium, and you can see here it's getting much wider. So you have a better sole depth, and actually there's two things. You have a better sole depth, you have better corium under the pedal bone, but also you have a wider corium from the wall because you do not have those compressed capsule, and that's really important. And same thing here. So, you know, it's not the same thing. The corium is very tight here due to the pressure. This is going much better. So the question is, you know, when you raise the heel, do you really improve blood flow? You know, it depends on stance and how much also distortion you have in your capsule. It's all together. The more distorted the capsule and lost its flexibility, the less the blood flow. So same, again, that's what we had at the beginning, and it's now. It's still work in progress. It's still work in progress. It's going to take a little longer to get all the stuff to get sorted out, you know, and you can't force it. So, you know, this is left, right. We do not have the distortion we used to have. It's still going to take time. As I say, I'm not going to fix it overnight. And that's before and after, so it's quite a difference. And what's interesting, when we started, the coronary band was wider than the base of the foot, which is actually really bad. It still needs to expand more. Again, I cannot force it, but that makes a huge difference. So point palpated, again, I'm using the distal end of the first phalange and the junction, the articulation between the third and first phalange. So I don't let my eye fool me, and it's very easy. And I think people are not taught spatial geometry. I think it's very important. I'm going to give courses on that. So it's not because people are bad, but I think it's a missing link in terms of dealing with trimming in 3 dimension according to the asymmetry of the hoof. All right, so this is the before and after. So again, the question is, where is your breakover? So people look at the horses going up and down, and then they add a little something here, a little there, but no one seems to address where is the capsule in relationship and the position of the capsule in relationship to the bone. And that makes a huge significant difference. And again, you have to accept that the foot is not symmetric, neither are the bone. So I'm dealing with a project now to do kinematics of those joints, and I'll go in more detail with that. But anyway, so this would be saying, well, the horse turned out, but is that true? And I've seen it. It doesn't matter whether it's in metal shod or barefoot or something. Barefoot you remove a lot of distortion, but I can still see those feet going the wrong way because people are not addressing the position of the capsule as it relates to the limb and the bone. So again, you can see the difference. So, how do you set the shoe accordingly, and what is breakover? Same thing. So you can see when people set the shoe to the white line that is distorted and sheared, this is why it's so deceiving. You're going actually to continue the problem you have with the capsule. And it's not an attack on metal shod horses. So you can see this is taking the whole capsule in another dimension, and you can see where the breakover is, but the bone are right here. So you need to kind of reset with the trim. When you have something going, shearing this way, with your trim you need to sculpt the foot around the bones, not what the capsule is lying to you. And again, there's limitation how much you can take. You have to be thoughtful. And obviously, if things were really distorted and I don't have enough foot underneath, obviously I'm not going to start digging into the capsule to get what I want. So you have to be a little bit careful with that. But the whole idea is to keep your tubules aligned with the bony column, medially and laterally. And same thing, this is a barefoot horse. Again, the horse sheared a lot. And that's normal because locomotion, you have locomotional issue and loading issue. And it would be very easy actually to start trimming a lot here and do all sorts of stuff. But again, if you really trim to reorient your capsule around those landmarks, you're not going to have, when you're finished, you're going to have more straight aligned tubules. It's never perfect, but you have to think a little bit in those terms. It affects the breakover, it affects everything. It affects how the horse load across the sole. So going back to our horse here that was actually interfering, right now it's not doing it. It's a narrow-based horse. It's, as I say, 22-year-old. I am not going to make this horse a significantly different, that's the reality of things, but you can actually alleviate some issue. Voila. I hope it makes sense.